You can't even understand the contract, Simone.
Then why are your lawyers afraid to let me read it aloud?
Because this is a courtroom, not your little community college.
Simone Carter Whitmore slowly rose from her seat as painful whispers swept through the packed Manhattan courtroom. She straightened her navy blue dress, looked directly at her billionaire husband, and placed one hand on the thick contract that his 6 expensive lawyers had sworn would destroy her.
Exactly,
Adrian, she said calmly. And in a courtroom,
your money
cannot interrupt the truth. 3 months earlier, Adrian Whitmore had still believed he controlled everything. At 38, he was the celebrated CEO of Whitmore Global, a powerful technology and investment company headquartered in a 60-story glass tower overlooking Central Park. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and always dressed in custom Italian suits. His sharp blue eyes rarely showed warmth. Business magazines called him fearless, brilliant, and unstoppable. Adrian preferred another word: superior. He had inherited a struggling company from his late father and transformed it into a $12 billion empire. That achievement had convinced him that every room belonged to him and every person inside it had a price. Simone was the only person who had never treated him like a billionaire. She was a beautiful 33-year-old black woman with deep brown skin, intelligent dark eyes, and natural curls that framed her graceful face. She dressed simply but elegantly, spoke carefully, and listened before responding. Adrian had met her 5 years earlier when she was coordinating a legal aid fundraiser in Harlem. At the time, Simone was studying at night while working 2 jobs. She had earned an associate degree from a community college before completing her bachelor's degree through evening classes. Later, she quietly enrolled in law school but paused her studies when her mother became seriously ill. Adrian admired her determination when he was courting her. After they married, however, he began using her education as a weapon against her. At charity dinners, he introduced her as the compassionate one, while describing himself as the educated mind in the marriage. When executives discussed complicated contracts, he would smile at Simone and say, "Don't worry, sweetheart. The adults will handle the technical details." Each insult was disguised as a joke. Each laugh from his wealthy friends cut deeper than he knew. Simone endured it because she remembered the man Adrian had been before power hardened him. She remembered when he volunteered at her community center, ate pizza with children on folding chairs, and confessed that he feared becoming as cold as his father. She believed kindness could call that man back. But kindness, Simone would eventually learn, did not mean accepting humiliation. The final betrayal began on a cold Monday morning. Simone entered Adrian's home office and discovered a large envelope on his desk. Inside were divorce papers and a property agreement claiming she had waived every right to their marital assets. Adrian stood near the window with his hands in his pockets. "I was going to tell you tonight," he said without turning around. Simone studied the signature at the bottom of the agreement. It looked like hers, but she had never signed that document. "You're divorcing me? This marriage no longer fits the direction of my life." She looked up slowly. "Your life or your image?" Adrian finally faced her. "Don't make this emotional. A marriage ending is emotional. Not everything needs to become one of your inspirational speeches, Simone." She held up the agreement. "I never signed this." "Yes, you did. 3 weeks before our wedding." "No, I signed a financial disclosure and a temporary residence agreement. I never waived my marital rights." Adrian gave a tired smile, the expression of a man speaking to someone he considered intellectually inferior. "You probably didn't understand everything you signed." The words struck harder than the divorce papers. Simone searched his face for remorse and found only arrogance. "You think I'm stupid. I think legal documents can be difficult for people without proper legal education." Adrian's general counsel, Martin Graves, entered the office carrying a leather briefcase. Martin was a silver-haired corporate attorney who charged more for 1 hour than many families earned in a month. He placed another document on the desk. "Mrs. Whitmore, the agreement is enforceable," Martin said. "Mr. Whitmore is offering you $200,000 as a courtesy. If you challenge him, that offer disappears." Simone looked from Martin to Adrian. "You planned this together." Adrian adjusted his gold cufflinks. "Take the settlement. Buy a house somewhere quiet. Finish whatever degree you were working on." Martin chuckled. Community college credits don't usually prepare someone to fight a team like ours. Simone placed the papers back inside the envelope. My mother once told me that when powerful people laugh before a battle, it is usually because they have never imagined losing. Adrian stepped closer. Is that a threat? No, Simone replied. It is the last honest warning your wife will ever give you. If you believe nobody should be treated as inferior because of where they studied, their race, or how much money they have, subscribe to the channel and comment. Respect is priceless. Simone moved out that evening with one suitcase. She rejected Adrian's money and rented a small apartment in Brooklyn, above a family-owned bakery. The radiator rattled at night, the kitchen barely had room for one person, and the subway shook the windows every 20 minutes. Yet for the first time in years, she could breathe. Her best friend Maya Reynolds visited the next morning. Maya was a determined civil rights attorney with a warm smile and a reputation for accepting cases larger firms avoided. We can file immediately, Maya said after reading the agreement. Simone shook her head. You can advise me, but I want to represent myself. Maya stared at her. Adrian has 6 lawyers. I know. They have researchers, investigators, expert witnesses, and unlimited resources. I know that too. Then why do this alone? Simone opened an old storage box and removed several law textbooks, marked with colored tabs and handwritten notes. Because Adrian needs to hear the truth in my voice. For the next 6 weeks, Simone prepared. She woke at 5 every morning, read case law before breakfast, reviewed financial records in the public library, and spent her evenings comparing the disputed agreement with documents she had actually signed. She discovered something important on the 4th night. The agreement listed Whitmore Global's headquarters as 810 Lexington Avenue, but the company had moved to that address 2 months after her wedding. That meant the document could not have existed when Adrian claimed she signed it. She also noticed that her signature appeared slightly compressed. Under magnification, the ink pattern looked printed rather than written. Someone had copied it from another document. But the greatest discovery came from a wedding photograph. In the background of a picture taken 3 weeks before the ceremony, Simone saw herself signing the residence agreement at Adrian's dining table. Beside her sat Adrian, Martin, and a junior paralegal named Chloe Bennett. The document in the photograph was only 4 pages long. The agreement presented in court was 27 pages. Simone tracked Chloe to a small legal office in Queens. At first, Chloe refused to speak. She had left Martin's firm 2 years earlier and feared retaliation. I have a young son, Chloe said. Whitmore Global could ruin my career. Simone did not pressure her. Instead, she placed her business card on the table. I understand fear, she said. But fear grows every time good people obey it. Whatever you decide, I will respect it. That night, Chloe called. I kept the original file, she whispered. Martin told me to destroy it, but I couldn't. The trial began on a rainy Thursday morning, inside the New York County Supreme Court. Reporters crowded the marble hallway because Adrian Whitmore's divorce had become national news. Headlines portrayed Simone as an uneducated former charity worker demanding half of a billionaire's fortune. Adrian's public relations team had carefully shaped that story. They had not prepared for Simone to walk into court carrying her own case files. Adrian arrived with 6 attorneys dressed in dark suits. Martin Graves led them like a general entering a war he considered already won. When Simone approached the opposing table, Adrian leaned toward her. It isn't too late to accept the settlement. It isn't too late to tell the truth, she replied. Judge Eleanor Hayes entered the courtroom. She was a 60-year-old black woman with observant eyes and a calm voice that immediately silenced the room. Martin presented his argument first. He described Simone as a loving woman who unfortunately regretted signing a valid agreement. He displayed enlarged copies of her signature and called a handwriting expert who claimed it was authentic. Then Martin questioned Adrian. Did you force your wife to sign this agreement? Absolutely not. Did she have an opportunity to seek legal advice? Yes. Did she appear to understand the document? Adrian glanced at Simone. She said she did, but Simone often pretends to understand subjects beyond her education. Several people in the gallery shifted uncomfortably. Martin smiled. What is the highest degree she completed before your marriage? A 2-year degree from a community college. And you? An MBA from Harvard. Martin faced the judge as though those two answers had settled the case. When it was Simone's turn to question Adrian, she walked toward the witness stand without hesitation. Adrian, do you believe attending Harvard makes you more intelligent than someone who attended community college? Martin stood. Objection. Irrelevant. Overruled, Judge Hayes said. The witness may answer. Adrian tightened his jaw. It provided me with a better education. That was not my question. A faint smile appeared on the judge's face. Adrian shifted in his seat. In most cases, yes. Did you read the agreement you claim I signed? Of course. All 27 pages? Yes. Simone lifted the document. Then please identify the address listed for Whitmore Global on page 19. Adrian looked at Martin before answering. 810 Lexington Avenue. When did Whitmore Global move there? Silence spread across the courtroom. Adrian's face changed. I don't remember the exact date. Simone walked to the evidence screen and displayed a press release. According to your company's official announcement, Whitmore Global moved there on June 18th, 2 months after our wedding. How did an agreement supposedly signed before our wedding include an address your company had not yet selected? Reporters began typing furiously. Martin rose. The address may have been updated when the document was digitized. Simone turned toward him. Thank you, Mr. Graves. That explanation brings us to my next piece of evidence. She presented the document metadata obtained through court-authorized discovery. The file was created 14 months after our wedding. It was modified by Martin Graves and printed from his office. Martin's confident expression disappeared. Judge Hayes leaned forward. Mr. Graves, you will have an opportunity to explain that. Simone continued. She displayed the wedding photograph showing the 4-page document on Adrian's dining table. Then she produced the original residence agreement, which carried the same signature later pasted into the 27-page waiver. Martin attacked the evidence, claiming the photograph was unclear and the metadata could have been corrupted. That was when Simone called Chloe Bennett. Chloe entered the courtroom wearing a gray suit, her face pale and her hands trembling around a small flash drive. Simone watched her carefully. This was the witness who had promised to reveal how Martin Graves had fabricated the agreement. Chloe took the oath and sat down. Ms. Bennett, Simone began, did Mr. Graves instruct you to copy my signature onto a document I had never signed? Chloe looked at Adrian. For one brief moment, something silent passed between them. Then she turned toward the judge. No, she answered. Simone froze. A murmur moved through the courtroom. Ms. Bennett, you told me that you preserved the original emails. I never said that. Simone stared at the woman she had trusted. You called me from your home. You said Martin threatened your career. Chloe's eyes remained cold. That conversation never happened. Martin slowly leaned back in his chair. The faint smile on his face told Simone everything. Chloe had not come to save her. She had come to bury her. Judge Hayes instructed Simone to continue, but the courtroom seemed to tilt beneath her feet. Simone reached for the table as a painful pressure tightened across her chest. Still, she refused to stop. She submitted the company address records, the file metadata, the wedding photograph, and the original 4-page residence agreement. One by one, she exposed every inconsistency in Adrian's story. Martin objected repeatedly. Simone answered every objection. Adrian's other lawyers tried to confuse her with technical language, but she corrected their dates, challenged their evidence, and forced 2 of their witnesses to admit that the disputed agreement could not have been created before the wedding. The lawyers who had mocked her education stopped laughing. By the end of the day, Simone had dismantled their entire case. Even without Chloe's testimony, she had proven that the agreement was fraudulent. Judge Hayes looked toward Adrian's legal team. The evidence presented by Mrs. Whitmore raises extremely serious questions, she said. This court is considering sanctions, a forensic investigation, and a referral to the appropriate authorities. A final ruling will be delivered next Monday. Simone had defeated 6 of the most expensive lawyers in New York, but justice had not yet become official. Outside the courthouse, reporters surrounded her beneath the pouring rain. Mrs. Whitmore, do you believe you won? Will your husband face criminal charges? What will you do with the settlement? Simone opened her mouth to answer, but the pressure in her chest became unbearable. Her files slipped from her hands. Pages scattered across the wet courthouse steps as Simone collapsed. Maya screamed her name and rushed forward. Paramedics fought to revive her inside the ambulance, but Simone's heart had endured weeks of stress, sleepless nights, and silent pain. She died before reaching the hospital. She was 33 years old. News of her death spread across the country that night. Thousands of people who had watched her stand alone against a billionaire-filled social media with messages of grief and admiration. But grief could not finish the case she had started. On Monday morning, Adrian's lawyers asked the court to dismiss the divorce proceedings because Simone was dead. They argued that the court no longer had authority to divide the marital estate through a divorce action. Judge Hayes rejected some of their arguments, but the legal battle became trapped in appeals, jurisdictional disputes, and estate claims. Simone had exposed the truth. She had defeated Adrian's lawyers in open court. Yet she died before receiving the justice she had fought for. At her funeral in Harlem, hundreds of people stood outside the small church because there was no room left inside. Former students, community workers, struggling mothers, and families Simone had helped came to honor her. Adrian sat alone in the last row. He wore a black suit, but there were no tears on his face. When Maya walked past him, she stopped. "She loved you before your money taught you to despise kindness," Maya whispered. "You didn't only break her heart, Adrian. You exhausted it." Adrian said nothing. 6 months later, another headline shocked the public. Billionaire Adrian Whitmore marries former paralegal Chloe Bennett in private ceremony. The wedding took place at Adrian's oceanfront estate in the Hamptons. Chloe wore an expensive white gown and a diamond necklace that had once belonged to Simone. Photographers captured Adrian kissing her beneath an arch of white roses. To the public, the marriage seemed sudden. Maya knew it was not. She discovered that Adrian and Chloe had been secretly involved before the divorce began. Chloe had helped Martin create the fraudulent agreement because Adrian had promised to marry her once Simone was removed from his life. Chloe had approached Simone pretending to be afraid. She had offered hope, gained access to Simone's evidence, and then betrayed her in court. Simone had believed she was protecting a frightened young mother. Instead, she had shown kindness to the woman waiting to replace her. One evening, Maya received a package with no return address. Inside was Simone's old notebook and a voice recorder. Simone had mailed them on the morning of the trial. On the final recording, her tired but steady voice filled Maya's apartment. "If you are listening to this, something may have happened to me. I know Chloe is hiding something, but I still have to give her the opportunity to tell the truth. Kindness does not guarantee that people will treat you kindly in return. We choose kindness because cruelty should not be allowed to change who we are." Maya covered her mouth as tears streamed down her face. Simone continued, "If I lose, let people know that I was not ashamed of where I studied. I was not ashamed of being a black woman who had to work twice as hard to be considered half as capable. And I was never ashamed of believing in people, even when some of them proved me wrong." The recording ended with one final sentence. "Justice may arrive too late for me, but perhaps my courage will arrive on time for someone else." Maya used Simone's notebook to establish the Simone Carter Education Fund. It was not funded by Adrian's fortune. Ordinary people donated $5, $10, or whatever they could afford. Within 1 year, the fund helped 40 women return to school. Simone never wore her law school graduation robe. She never received her settlement. She never heard Judge Hayes publicly declare that she had been right. Adrian kept his mansion, his company, and the woman who had betrayed Simone. But every time he entered a boardroom, people remembered the courtroom where his supposedly uneducated wife exposed the truth his Harvard-trained lawyers tried to hide. And every time Chloe looked at the diamond around her neck, she saw Simone's reflection in the mirror. They had escaped punishment. They had not escaped the truth. Years later, a bronze plaque was placed outside the Harlem Legal Aid Center where Simone once volunteered. It carried the words she had written in her notebook. "Some people never receive justice in their lifetime, but their courage can become the weapon another person uses to find it." Simone's story did not end with a fair judgment. It ended with betrayal, grief, and a question that followed Adrian and Chloe for the rest of their lives. How could two people call themselves victorious when their happiness had been built upon the grave of an innocent woman? If Simone's story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with someone who has ever been underestimated or betrayed. Then comment, "Your kindness will not be forgotten." Because the world does not always give good people the justice they deserve. But even when a cruel person steals their future, they cannot erase the lives their courage changed.